Welcome to the Maple Grove City Report. I'm Dave Kaiser from CCX Media, along with Heidi Nelson, Maple Grove City Administrator. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
As you can tell, we're back at the studio, and it was funny to look back. Last time we were here was November, so we've been Zooming it for quite some time, but good to be back in the studio. We have a meeting from the 1st of February to talk about, but before we get there, a work session beforehand, and trees was the topic of the work session in two different parts. Tell us a little bit about what the discussion was.
Yeah, so we had started some work on our tree preservation overlay district ordinance, quite a while ago, probably over a year ago, and had never quite finished that up, and it kind of got delayed due to the, pandemic and meeting changes and whatnot. So bringing that one back, we've got some changes to that ordinance that really deal with how removal can be done in those tree preservation overlay areas, and then how replacement would occur when development happens in those. And just this covers privately held land, so really comes to bear when we have development occurring in those areas that are covered by those tree preservation overlay districts. The second piece was to talk about the forest preservation areas, which are really publicly held lands. So these are lands that were generally acquired with some bond proceeds that occurred kind of in the mid-90s timeframe. And the Arbor Committee has been talking about kind of the protections on those lands going forward, and wanting to have some discussion about those forest management plans and some of those protections. And I think word had gone out a bit to the community that the city was thinking about maybe developing those areas, which is not true. There are no plans for any development or tree removal or any sort of thing in those forest preservation areas. Again, those are publicly held. So just an update to the council about the work we're doing there. We've been getting some title legal work so that we understand kind of what restrictions are currently in place out there, and then we'll be bringing forward information to the council in future months, is what we've found, and the work of the Arbor Committee with some recommendations. So that one will come back, and then you'll probably see that tree preservation overlay district on an agenda for approval in the coming months. So
very good. So that was the work session on the 1st. There's another work session coming up shortly. We'll tell you about that towards the end of the program. Now to the meeting on the 1st, just over an hour in length. One topic that took most of that time. No items from consent were pulled, so let's move ahead to the first note was the chief talking a little bit about COVID-19. What's the report there?
Yeah, well, things are certainly moving in the right direction with case counts and deaths and those kinds of things. And it seems like the vaccination process is starting to play into that. I think several of us at work have commented that we know many people that have already gone through being vaccinated. And so I think that's, we're starting to make some progress there. By the end of this week, all of our police and fire folks will have been through their second dose. And so then that will be completed. And I know that's the condition in much of Hennepin County law enforcement, public safety facilities. So looking forward to that. I think we're working a little bit with Hennepin County on identifying more vaccination sites that could be stood up throughout Hennepin County, and so some sites here in Maple Grove. More to come on that. We're not sure what that's going to look like yet or how that's going to roll out, but I think all good signs that things might start to roll here in a more positive way and a more quick way in terms of getting vaccinations out to the public. So I just encourage everybody to stay tuned. I know, there's information coming out from the state of Minnesota that there's going to be more vaccines sent out to clinics and pharmacies and those kinds of things, making that accessible to those groups of, over 65. So more to come on that, but I think it feels like we're moving in the right direction.
More on the city's website. Certainly go there for the latest updated information. One public hearing on the 1st, and that was dealing with the easement vacation. And it seems like we've talked about this area multiple times down by Bass Lake Road, Cook Lake area. What is happening there? And is this the last of the group, or there might be more?
So when Bass Lake Road 101 was kind of aligned out there to do that new road section, I think it left a lot of little remnant pieces of whether it was road right away or utility right away, those kinds of things. So this was an easement vacation, and this was for that Edgewater by Cook Lake development out there, kind of on the northwest corner. So not sure, there probably will be more until all 4 of those corners are finally fully developed and we get all that old right-of-way cleaned up.
Very good. 2 community development items, a number here. The first was the Arbor Lakes Business Park, Phase 2 of this. Remind people where that is and what is the look of Phase 2.
Yeah, so we're just south of Elm Creek Boulevard, just due east of the fountains, the shopping center there. You'll know the Phase 1 is that project that's there with Illume being in that building right along Elm Creek Boulevard, and then the second building to the south has a number of tenants in it. And as of now, they're fully leased in that building, which is why they're looking to move forward with phase two. So this would be kind of a duplicate of those buildings, maybe some slight architectural changes. We're really kind of leaning in on that west edge of those as it sits up against that retail center, wanting to make sure lots of windows, stone, that kind of a thing. So that'll come back in the development stage plan of this. This was for concept stage plan, but I think general support for the concept, the use, the land use. I think one of the the good things about these buildings is that they're home to lots of really good jobs, and so situating that number of jobs kind of next to our retail and service areas with our restaurants and our stores and the various health clinics and services that are available there really helps to provide kind of that daytime traffic and daytime business that our businesses need to survive, and good to have good jobs, good paying jobs in the community as well. So this project gains support for concept stage, but like I said, it'll come back in the future for development stage and have more details about kind of the architecture of those buildings.
Okay. Next item under community development, Evanswood Development. This is a concept stage plan, and this was the one item that took about half of the meeting.
Yeah.
So give us a little background once again, if you could, and tell us about the discussion, which ended up in this being tabled.
Yeah, so Evanswood is kind of the first big development out in the northwest quadrant of Maple Grove. So kind of north of Lawndale, kind of, north of County Road 30 up there, west of I-94, kind of up to our borders with Corcoran, and Rogers and Dayton. So this is pretty significant, housing development. It's made up of single family and some townhomes type of development, but there was some concern about the lot sizes up there. There were, ranged from in the 60s, 45, and then down to 28, which is really kind of some of the more denser product that we see over here in the gravel mining area. So some concerns with, wanting to scale that back a bit in terms of the density and the lots, increase the lot sizes a bit to make this a bit more of a traditional single-family development. I think particularly out in that northwest quadrant that, of course, today is farm fields, really, and this development probably sets the stage then for what else will occur out there. So a lot of pushback on the lot sizes and the density in the townhome area. Some discussion around private streets. We do have a number of private streets within our townhome developments in Maple Grove, so we'll be providing some information to the council about that. But this one did get tabled, and I think there's another thing at play here. Of course, we're in the midst of finalizing a housing study. As you recall, we put a moratorium in place on apartments last May for the opportunity to kind of study where the housing market is. And we're going to be bringing that housing study forward to the council on February 16th. And I think some of the, the concerns that were raised here about this, kind of the new frontier out in the northwest quadrant of Maple Grove, I think might get answered, or some of that information in the housing study might help inform some of this. And so that housing study is going to come forward on February 16th, and then we'll probably look to see the Evanswood concept stage plan come back in March or so for further discussion after the developer kind of takes another swing at it. But I think it'll be good to have kind of this interim step in here with some of this good housing information, and then the developer can take a look at that as well. So again, this one's just concept stage, so it's really just kind of looking at, the land use, how they have things situated, the densities, that kind of a thing. And so this one will come back again in March, and we'll see the work that they did in the interim months here.
And speaking of that area, in the discussion, I understand there's also some property potentially for an elementary school in that area, and also quite a bit of land that could be parkland. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this whole northwest quadrant, and you'll recall we did a master plan, kind of for that area, thinking about what development might look up like up there, aligning roads, those kinds of things. But yes, so Osseo Area Schools does have a land holding up there for a future elementary school. And then tied to that would be, parkland for the city. And we would do that much like we have done with other elementary schools with playfields and that kind of a thing. So we continue in discussion with the school district, kind of understanding what their timelines are. Certainly with this development proposal, we need to be aligning roads and access points, that kind of thing. There will be a public infrastructure project that'll need to be done to support this development. And so we need to be in coordination with the school district for that, as well as our own, park assets that we want to see up there. So this is kind of a big deal for that northwest quadrant. We've had folks, talking about it for a long time, a few developers come and go, but it seems like this one, this is a pretty serious plan. I think, albeit some concerns by the council and some pushback, and so they'll have to kind of go back to the drawing board. But yeah, a lot of things to consider up there in that northwest quadrant as we start to develop what is kind of that last remaining area for the northwest area.
All right, more information to come on that topic. Moving ahead, report on upcoming community development items. There is a joint Planning Commission Council meeting on the 8th, and that is going to talk about Main Street. That's a process that we've talked about. What is happening there? Yeah,
so we have been working on a Main Street design study, and so this opportunity for the Planning Commission City Council is to kind of take a look at the engagement work that has been done to date. We have some draft design scenarios that we want to share with the Planning Commission, the City Council, and get some feedback about that. Still looking for this project to come forward maybe late 2021, after Maple Grove Days. We'll talk about that later. Maybe August timeframe, a fall construction start on this one, but going to review some of those design details and get some feedback from the Council and Planning Commission on that one.
Very good. And as Heidi mentioned just a moment ago, coming up on the 16th, before the council meeting, work session related to the housing study, so I'm sure we'll have some reports about that the next time. And let's give people a little commission update, some openings on commissions, what is happening here.
Yeah, so really exciting. We got 10 applications we have one spot open on the Planning Commission, so we're looking to do some interviews for that later in February. And then also for Arbor Committee as well as the Lake Quality Commission. So really appreciate people's interest in serving the community, and we'll be moving through the interview and appointment process in the coming weeks.
To Public Works Engineering, if you've driven down 94 recently, you might have noticed something popping up on the west side.
Yeah.
What is that, and what will that lead to?
Yeah, so and if you've been driving out there during the daytime hours, you've noticed some lane restrictions and whatnot. They've been doing a lot of work kind of out in that ditch, right-of-way area. So the first segment of the new noise walls is starting to go up and in. So it's just one panel. I drove out there earlier this week after Ken said that. I got to see this. And it's just one panel right now. So it looks a little stark just sitting there. But I think once they all start to go in, it'll start to make sense. So they are going to make some progress on that over the winter here. Very good.
Final note from Engineering Public Works, bond funds for distribution from MnDOT. This relates to 610, correct?
Yeah, so we continue to work with MnDOT on the state bonding funds that were received in the last session last fall for the 610 completion. We do have additional funding that we still need to secure for that project. We want to make sure we're following the state guidelines and readying for that project in the future.
Final note in the meeting was your note about the online State of the City event. Give us a little preview of when that's coming on, what it'll look like.
Yeah, so this year I think would have been our third annual kind of Maple Grove State of the City event at the community center, and it would have been around the last week of February. And of course, we're not able to gather and do that this year, so we're going to do kind of an online version of that. And so thank you for your willingness to sit down with the mayor and have a conversation about the state of the city and where things are headed into 2021. And we'll look to get that out, share that out on social media and our website, and of course on CCX, probably that last week in February.
All right, watch for that to come. We also talked to Brett Angel talking about community development. We caught him out at the Grove, so you'll have to see that video as well. He survived the cold day to bring you that report. So that's the meeting from the 1st. We'll tell you about the next meeting in just a couple minutes, but let's bounce around town, find out some of the other things that are happening. First is our residence guide is out and about. What will we find inside?
Yeah, so this is the 25th year for the Maple Grove Osseo Residence Guide, and this edition, of course, is chock full of city and community information as well as a variety of events and a restaurant map. And so I was able to kind of look through this new publication. Looks really sharp. Yesterday yesterday, and I think one of the great things is they did some features on community leaders, and so the president of the Lions Club and the president of the Rotary Club were recognized in that guide. And so if you should have it in your home, take a read at some of the good information that was included there.
Let's hop to businesses. Tell us about a few new businesses to town that people might want to stop in and check out.
Yeah, so we still see new tenants coming to town for some of our vacancies, which is great. And we continue to work with a lot of our property owners just to see if there's things we can do to help, just to kind of, and also understanding kind of where they're at with some of their leases that are out there. But just a few updates. Bob's Furniture is going to be locating in the former Toys R Us store. They're new. They are a national furniture retailer with 120 stores in 20 different states, mainly located in the eastern part of the country.
Okay.
So they're entering the Minnesota market with this store, and then they're going to have another location in the South Metro, and they're anticipated to open in the spring. So kind of a new store to this market.
Good.
And then the Banfield Pet Hospital, a national chain of veterinary clinics, will be locating in a portion of the former Schuler Shoes store space on Main Street. So most of them, the Banfield's pet hospitals have been located within the PetSmart stores. So this is kind of a new piece for them to be moving out into kind of standalone clinic space. And they also expect to be open in late spring.
Good news. Welcome to the new businesses. Let's move ahead to the police department. I understand they recently held an annual meeting in a little different environment as well, as lots of things are happening this year.
Yeah, so every January the police department holds its annual meeting, and this is really the one time of year where every employee in the police department is together in one place, and it's a great opportunity to kind of share information about the goals for the police department and how they're making progress on that, and just talk about any operational issues. So that meeting was held at the Maple Grove Middle School auditorium, pretty big space, so we were able to space everybody out and have all the protocols in place. The president of the Minnesota Chiefs of Police Association also presented 4 officers and the crime prevention officer with MCPA awards, so Minnesota Chiefs of Police Association awards. So that was good to have that done. They usually do that at their banquet at their annual conference, which that didn't happen this year. And then I also was able to attend and talk about kind of the city goals in general, the big overarching goals for the whole city, and provide an update to the police department on that. And again, thank you them for their service in this crazy year that they've been here. So great opportunity to bring everybody together for an afternoon.
Let's talk recycling for a minute. I understand congratulations go to residents for some great work on recycling. You have some very positive numbers.
Yeah, so for residential recycling, 2020 again showed a high percentage of participation, ranging in the high 80% to 90%, depending on the month. The average weight of recyclables per household was in excess of 500 pounds for the year, which is really remarkable. But I think, I know the recycling at my house has been really up with being home and cooking so much, and all those kinds of things. Kids being home from school, I think all of those things have impacted it, and so we did a good job this year recycling.
Very nice. Let's get your calendar out and talk about some of the events and fun coming up here in the short term and also a little longer term. First is short term, Wonders of Winter, Saturday, February 20th at Central Park. What is this event? Yeah,
so this Saturday, February 20th, Central Park from 1 to 4 p.m. There will be outdoor activities including professional kite flyers, snowshoeing, a scavenger hunt, ice luminaries, and the skating loop will be open too. You need a reservation for that. So great opportunity to get the family out on a Saturday afternoon.
Mark Sundays on your calendar for a little shopping in Maple Grove. That's because the farmers market has moved to Sundays and indoor. Preview some of those dates for us.
Yeah, so this is at our location over at the shops at Arbor Lakes in the former Forever 21 space. So moving to Sundays for a bit here this winter, which I think is kind of fun. So February 14th, Valentine's Day, March 21st, and then April 18th. The hours are from 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. those days. So kind of a nice change, and information available on the Farmers Market website about that as well.
Very good. Let's talk to the youth for a second, and families that might have young ones that like art. You have a chance for them to get in the club.
Yeah.
How does this work?
Yes, so a weekly art club is being formed for youth ages 11 to 17. It's set for every Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. The club starts February 16th and runs for 10 weeks with participants making new creation each week, and it includes painting, drawing, yarn art, yarn art, not yawn art, yarn art, luminaries, tie-dye, and more. And then registration for that camp is available on the Park and Rec website.
All right, go to that website, maplegrovemn.gov. You can get throughout all of the things we're mentioning here. Let's talk pools and skating first, the warm side of it.
Yep.
Pools inside, everything's open?
We're open, and
Good.
yeah, welcoming people in. Reservations are required for both the leisure pool and the lap pool, so we encourage people to do that. And then reservations are also required for the indoor playground, gym, ice skating, and all of that information is available on the Park and Rec website.
All right, let's go to the skating oval then. Outside, you can go to the park pages to find out more about it, but how's the skating world now? It's going to get a little cold. We'll see who's hardy, right?
Well, the ice is going to be good
Yes, the
after
ice
this
will be
weekend. The
great.
ice will be very good. That'll carry us for a while here as the sun gets a bit stronger. But still need a reservation for the skating loop, and then our neighborhood outdoor rinks are open for skating as well.
All right, last item, you previewed it earlier,
Yeah.
Maple Grove Days. A lot of people wondering what's going to happen. Is something going to happen? And the positive news is something is indeed going to happen.
Yeah, they're going ahead with the planning. We just had a call earlier today with the new leadership for Maple Grove Community Organization and the event coordinator for Maple Grove Days. And again, this year's event is scheduled for July 14th through the 18th. And I think their approach is to put on an event and to move forward planning with in accordance with the current guidelines that are in place and see what happens between now and July. We'll see if things can loosen up with some of this vaccine rolling out, that kind of a thing. But I think the good news is they seem very confident and prepared to put on an event in accordance with some of the the governor's orders. And I think it'll just involve maybe signing up, registering, much like the skate loop, no charge, of course, but needing to control those numbers. So making sure that we know who's coming when, that kind of a thing. So more to come on that one, and that could evolve between now and July, of course.
All right. Good news to get us thinking about summer and the fun in Maple Grove. Heidi, thank you so much again for your time and all the information from the city. Let's leave you with some information here. We promised that website. It is maplegrovemn.gov if you want to find out more about all of these events happening in the city and some of those dates maybe to put on your calendar. And also you can go to the city's phone number, 763-494-6000, to get to many of the departments within the city. You see in the middle of the screen, the next meeting, again, it is on a Tuesday, February 16th, at the Government Center. For Heidi Nelson, I'm Dave Kaiser. Thanks for joining us on the Maple Grove City Report.